And I went to Tarrant County Jail and got in a lot of trouble. I was in there with some very, very hard men. I thought I was a hard dude. But when you go into a big city jail, you're in there with rapists and murderers and drunks and dealers and pimps and whoever else happens to have gotten busted that night and hasn't been arraigned yet. I was in there with some truly hard dudes. And if you remember, physically, I was in really no condition to defend myself anyway. I was terrified. I don't know, other than of my father as a child, I've never been that scared before or since. It cost my parents well over $10,000 to see me released from still another brush with the legal system. And you guys got to remember, I was only 18, not quite 19 at this time. And here's what the state of Texas agreed to do with my lawyer. My daddy called them, and my lawyer talked to them, and the agreement was, if Stuart Pritchett will leave the state of Texas to never return again, we will drop these charges, and we'll give him a second chance in another state. Don't mess with Texas, baby. Those bumper stickers, they mean that, dude. But I left Texas as soon as the deal was done. And my parents sent me to my grandmother's house in Columbus, Georgia, to fatten me back up before they brought me back home to Alaska to see all my friends. Because you'll remember, I weighed about 135 pounds, and I had a 26-inch waist, and I had to go to the doctor today, and it turns out that take about 90 pounds off of my frame, because I was this size then, and that's what I would have looked like. I wish I could tell you that my struggle with addiction was over, but if I told you that, I would be absolutely lying to you. Now, my struggle with IV drug use and needles, it was over. It's amazing that God He took that away from me. But all I really did from that point and for years to follow was trade addictions. I traded addictions. And for the next 10 years of my life, I was a pothead and a drunk. And a very violent, for all intents and purposes, functional alcoholic. If you've been with us all week, does this sound familiar? God, can you believe? Can you believe? Now, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I'm not a full-blown dullard either. How do you make the same mistakes that terrified you so badly that you saw firsthand yourself? Riddle me this. I know, And we'll all be talking about this someday. There'll be guys and girls in this room. Someday I'll come to jail and I'll see you. I hope not, but chances are, if my ministry goes the way that it always has, I'll go to visit somebody in this room or more in jail, and you'll say, Stuart, I wish I would have listened to you back in August and September of 2009. If I would have just listened, I wouldn't be here today. And I'll love you anyway, and I'll say, yeah, that's exactly right. Too bad you didn't listen. Welcome to the real world, where the laws count. I went to work every day. I worked hard. I did a good job, so I didn't think I had a problem. But a problem that it would take me years to address is what I really had. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. In November of 1989, it was the beginning of the coldest recorded winter in Alaska history. And I had enough of the cold. I'm a southern kid, born and bred in the South, sweet tea, collard greens, and grits. That's me. Come on, man. Can I get a witness or what? If you're a Yankee, you'll figure it out. It'll come to you. Hang out with some black folks. They'll teach you how to eat. Trust me on that. But it'll come to you. But listen to me. I was southern, and I moved to Alaska, stayed up there about 4 or 5 years, and I was freezing. Y'all, it was 65 below zero when I left Alaska. And it was November. Just a freakishly cold winter that year. And I wanted to go back to the beaches of Florida that I'd gone to as a kid. But I had this roommate named Kevin. And he had some family in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So rather than going to Florida, we decided to trek down together and go to Myrtle Beach. It's funny how God works. Now, some other day, I'll tell you of the infinite number of miraculous ways that Jesus preserved our lives coming down on that trip. Yeah, you already know what I'm saying. The Yukon Territory closes up shop in the winter. It's 65 below zero and we're too stoned to remember that the signs are in kilometers per hour. Do the math, it'll come to you. Yeah. So God miraculously intervened. I'll tell you these stories some other day. But I'll tell you how I know Myrtle Beach was the place I was meant to land. I absolutely, and you know, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I don't know any other way to be but honest. Look here. I absolutely hate snow. Hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. I hate it almost as much as pickled beets. I hate it almost as much as polka music, honey. Hate it. Hate the snow. I think you can charge that to my time in Alaska. When I was a kid, I thought I'd love snow. But you shovel enough of it, it gets under your skin. You don't want to see no more of that mess. But in the summer of 1989, there was this weird thing that happened in the state of South Carolina. Who remembers? What hit the coast in 89? Hurricane Hugo hit the coast of South Carolina in 1989. Now, in the wake of that storm, in the winter of 1989, early 1990, what happened? Y'all had one more full-blown blizzard in the state of South Carolina, right? And I just want you to know, keep in mind, it hardly ever snows on the coast of South Carolina. The wind and the waterway just really don't let it happen. That year, it dumped from that side, remember? Well, miraculously, you got to understand, that freakish snow melted like hours before we got to the beach, because I want you to look at me and believe me when I say this. If I would have pulled on to Highway 17 and seen a single flake, I wouldn't have even unpacked my gear. I would have said, you're fine to stay here. I'll get a cab and pay my way to Florida. And I would have never stopped in South Carolina. But as it happens, and the way God has always intervened in my life, the snow melted literally, 16 hours before we made landfall in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.